What founders can learn from the World Cup. Create moments of truth. In this article, I'm using the term founder. While I'm primarily focusing on startup founders, this framework should be useful to anyone who wants to achieve a complex goal in business and most other professions. In his most recent appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, intellectual superstar Jordan Peterson elaborated on winning games, championships, and life.
So here's the idea. You know how you tell your kid to be a good sport? You say, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it matters how you play the game. Okay, so I've been unpacking that in my lectures because it's really, really complicated. It's like you tell your kid that and they look at you and they think, well, what do you mean by that? Aren't I supposed to try to win? You're trying to train your son not to win the game. You're trying to train your son to win the championship. And so that's a series of games. But then life isn't the championship. Life is a whole bunch of championships. It's a whole sequence of them. And so what you're actually trying to train your son to do is to be a contender in the entire series. And the way you do that is by helping him develop his character. And the character is actually the strategy that would enable him to win the largest number of games across the largest possible span of time. You don't want to teach him to win. You want to teach him to play well with others. And that's to be reciprocal. So that means to try to win, but also to pay attention to developing the other people around him and not to put winning the game above everything at all times. So then he's fun to play with. And this is absolutely crucial. If your kid is fun to play with, then what happens? Kids line up to play with him. And adults line up to teach him. And if kids line up to play with him, then he'll have friends his whole life. And he'll be socialized and he'll be invited to many games, some of which he'll win, all of which he'll be able to participate in. And if he's fun to play with, then adults will teach him things, and then he wins at life. And so when you say to your kid, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it matters how you play the game, what you're saying is, don't forget, kid, that what you're trying to do here is to do well at life. And you need to practice the strategies that enable you to do well at life while you're in any specific game. And you never want to compromise your ability to do well at life for the sake of winning a single game. And there's a deep ethic in that, and it's the ethic of reciprocity in games. Part of the reason that we're so obsessed with sports is because we like to see that dramatized, like the person we really admire as an athlete isn't only the person who wins. We don't like the narcissistic winners. They're winners, and that's a plus. But if they're narcissistic, they're not good team players, they're only out for themselves, then we think, well, you're a winner in the narrow sense, but your character is suspect. You're no role model, even though you're a winner. And it's because we're looking for something deeper. We're looking for the manifestation of character that allows you to win across the set of possible games. And that's a real thing. That's a real ethic. It's a fundamental ethic.
Let's hold that thought now for a moment. Why is watching sports so captivating? The main fascination comes from witnessing the hero's journey. So the hero usually starts with a call to adventure, gets some supernatural aid, comes to a threshold where he meets guardians, there's mentors, helpers, there's challenges and temptations along the way, then usually comes into an abyss where there's a form of revelation, death and rebirth kind of experience. The hero gets transformed, he atones for his past transgressions, and then he returns and returns the gift to the people where he emanated from. This is a graphic in the article, and it's taken from Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces. When we watch Harry Kane score, we see the hero's journey culminating in that split second. The call for adventure he heard in his youth, his hard work and practice, the mentors he had, the challenges and temptations he experienced, and the abyss he went through. They all are encapsulated in that moment when the boot hits the leather. Let's put these two thoughts together, the Jordan Peterson point and our witnessing of the hero journey's final act when we crack open a lager and watch the boys hopefully bring it home this week. Because there is a lesson for startup founders who want to do more than have a one-hit wonder. Those who want to do well in life. And that's the insight that startup founders do not have these clearly focused moments of truth. Those 90-minute meetings with destiny, where their entire being gets put to the test. And that's something we should change. Recurring moments of truth improve you. Sure, there are occasional moments where we do get put to the test. An important sales pitch, a fundraise, a round of redundancies, booting out a co-founder, deciding whether to push ahead or fold the business, and so on. But those are far less clearly defined than a match is for a footballer, and they are also much less frequent. A Premier League footballer plays 38 games each season, averaging one a week, and that doesn't include friendlies. He has at least 90 minutes each week where he has to summon all his physical and mental abilities and channel them through that narrow lens of the moment of truth, the match. This recurring moment of truth is incredibly useful for self-improvement. The player learns where he stands in the hierarchy of competence. He tests his mental resilience. He discovers weaknesses he didn't know he had. And he takes that experience into his training and works to improve himself in the next match. Performing artists are in a similarly fortunate position. When they are on that stage, they also distill all their talent, skill, and hard work into a burst of effort, which they can then learn from and improve upon next time. These moments of truth are so wonderful because they are exciting to watch, often moving audiences to tears, and are incomparable to live through. They are also great teachers. You reach the edge of your possibilities where you get to poke at the limiting membrane of your personal universe, looking for flexible spots that will allow you to expand your world and grow as a human. Create your own moments of truth. But alas, startup founders don't have these moments of truth. Much of the founder's struggle is in his own head. Weeks and months on end where you are working away at a particular challenge while your team is looking at you for reassurance. You put on a brave face, fully realizing that you don't know what the hell you're doing. Most of your work is a long slog of uncertainty, and you cannot pin failure to any particular action or omission. You don't know the root causes of failure. We don't have moments of truth that test the sum of our abilities in one focal moment like Harry Kane has. And we don't have the post-game camera that tells us exactly where we went wrong. So we have to create our own moments of truth. But how? After all, our work will not change. It still will be many hours in front of the computer and a bunch of meetings. That's the bulk of our work, and it's not something that we can distill into 90 minutes of peak computer time or anything like that. Or can we? Here's a suggestion for a startup founder's moment of truth. A weekly hour of accountability, the results of which you share with the mastermind group. Before we get into the details, let's establish a few starting propositions. These 4 propositions are believed to be true. Number 1, let's define what success is for a founder. Building a profitable business that can be sold. Number 2, there are 3 broad skill areas that set the successful founder apart from the non-successful. A, strategy, having an accurate view of the chosen industry and a plan to succeed in it. B, tactics, the ability to prioritize from among a near infinite list of possible activities in choosing the right ones that will drive success. And C, execution, composed of skills and discipline. Do you have the right skills, and if not, does your team or network? And how disciplined are you in sticking with your plan and not giving into distractions on a day-to-day basis? Number 3, pressure is good. The peak of performance is only reached using tons of stress and a good system of reward and punishment. From Michael Jackson to Andre Agassi, genius is forged in a furnace hotter than hell. 4, founders are lonely. They cannot fully open themselves up to 100% transparent scrutiny to their subordinates or investors. They need a mastermind group of other founders to hold themselves accountable to. The system. The weekly hour of accountability requires building a system that A, takes a spot test and measures progress on these 3 skill areas and answers the questions, am I following the correct strategy? Am I prioritizing the correct tasks? And am I executing well? B, the system shares this progress with the mastermind group. And C, punishes or rewards the founder for failure or success. And here comes the letdown. If you were expecting that I will now serve you the hour of accountability system and process on a silver platter, I will have to disappoint you. I'm in the midst of building it for myself. I do have a great tool that tracks my performance on the execution layers on a daily basis, and I have a weekly ritual of giving myself a grade, kind of an embryonic and private hour of accountability, and I have a mastermind group. However, we don't have a regular accountability cadence set up yet. Our meetings are more therapeutic. And I haven't built a system of reward and punishment, nor do I have a good institutionalized strategy review. And my tactics review is patchy at best, so I would say I'm about 30% there. But if you're interested in participating in the discussion and want to get updates, sign up to my email list and I'll keep you posted. You can find the email list on michaelbohannes.com/subscribe. So that's MICHALBOHANES.com/subscribe. I will also count the volume of signups as a signal whether to follow up this post with a more in-depth outline of my existing system. You can, of course, always unsubscribe. And if you have thoughts and comments on the above, then just drop me a line on my email address, which is Michael, M-I-C-H-A-L, careful there's no E, M-I-C-H-A-L at michaelbohannes.com. The context of our work constrains us. Founders will never be able to generate 90 minutes crucibles of our skills and progress like football players have in abundance. My proposed solution is deeply unsexy, even if I compare it with the excitement potential of a League 2 match played on a muddy field. I don't have the perfect answer. But I think the principle is compelling. You grow if you put yourself to some form of test as often as possible. Conclusion. As Jordan Peterson says, winning at life is the consequence of how you comport yourself in the matches and championships. A lost match doesn't matter if you gave it all you got and competed honorably and ethically. A lost championship is no problem if you took your lessons from it and are working to neutralize your weaknesses and build on your strengths. Yes, it matters that you win. Participation trophies are for suckers. But with an accountability system that regularly tests you, rewards and punishes you, and helps you become the best you can be in your chosen field, you'll dramatically increase your chance you'll win more often and enter the big leagues. Sometimes a penalty kick is just a penalty kick. But sometimes it's one hell of a metaphor.